Aune, who is the state rep of the Missouri House District 14 in Platte County in Kansas. So we're talking. She's the Missouri State Minority Leader. And then we have the Up North podcast coming up at 6 o'clock. And I want to thank our sponsors for making all these conversations possible. 773-763-9278 is a number to call, by the way. And I want to let you know our sponsors make these conversations really not just possible, but they're investing in a place where we can connect with each other, find out what's going on nationally, what's going on locally, how you can get involved. You know, we do some grassroots organizing here, and it's important for us to make sure that we are supporting one another. And we do that with sponsors like Source Solar. Go to source.solar. Make an appointment with Peter Sorellis. Maybe it's time to get solar panels on your house or business. Spring is right around the corner. I know it's hard to believe as the temperatures drop precariously, but the spring really is coming around the corner, folks. And now is a good time to get set up to get solar panels on your house or business. And Peter Sorellis can walk you through the entire process. Go to source.solar. If you've missed our conversations with Peter and Warren Price, you can go to heartlandsignal.com because those conversations, as well as all the interviews that we have here, are podcast there right on our page. We also want to thank our friends at Pride Coffee Roasters. Go to Pride Coffee Roasters, and maybe it's time to put in an order for a bean subscription so you can have some of the best coffee delivered right to your house. Their single origin beans are roasted to order, so go ahead and put that order in at pridecoffeeroasters.com and check out their schedule. They are in the Chicagoland area. They'll be at markets near you, perhaps. I know we have coming up a market for the Jefferson Park Sunday Market, and they'll be there, so I can stock up on my beans too. We also want to thank our friends, of course, at Minocqua Brewing Company. Coming up in just an hour or less than an hour, we'll have our conversation with all of our friends in the Up North podcast. MinocquaBrewingCompany.com has all the progressive brew options you could possibly want. The Resistance Brew is one of my favorites. I am looking forward to the summertime and enjoying some Tammy Shandy. But until then, you can also get some of their great gear. They right now have some T-shirts and sweatshirts honoring Renee Good. They have some Minnesota Nice sweatshirts. And I really love their gear. So go ahead and check out MinocquaBrewingCompany.com. And remember, please sign up for our Substack. Minocqua Brewing Company has some great writers. I'm just honored to join them. I write Mocha Monday, and I'm so thrilled with the response we had this week. If you can't defend it, it's ours. I wrote about not just this bloodthirst that Stephen Miller has for having military action to take over Greenland, but also the way in which he talks about our American cities and what he wants to have happen to people. And I'll talk about that in a minute, too. But go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com, and on Substack, it's also Minocqua Brewing Company. And consider being a paid subscriber. We have our office hours once a month where we jump on and talk about the work that we're doing, the pieces that I write throughout the month. So I'd love to have you join us there. So I do have a question, and I know there are some folks who hate listening to the show, and they also are hate watching on my Facebook page where I'm dropping some videos every single day. I have one coming up in just a little while once I finish editing it, because I don't know if you guys caught this news story, but the police chief Burley in Minnesota yesterday held a press conference. He wanted to basically go after the fact that ICE agents, based on her skin color, pulled over one of his police officers who was off duty. And he said it's not the only police officer they've done this to, that they've done it multiple times. And with one police officer in particular, she's a woman, and she started trying to record the incident. First of all, you guys, they boxed her in. So they boxed in her vehicle and had weapons drawn. And when she tried to videotape the exchange, they knocked the phone out of her hand. There was no, and this is the thing that's killing me, because they're like, oh, they're just going after criminals. They went after an off-duty police officer with weapons drawn. When she tried to record it, as is her right, by the way, they knocked the phone out of her hand. Again, like she was a criminal. The way they're treating a lot of people who are dark-skinned or have accents, who look like my mom, who have a last name like mine, and they treated her like she was garbage. And she's not the only off-duty police officer that they've done this to. So I want to know, all the MAGA back the blue, right? We know you're not back the blue because we saw how you responded after January 6th. Oh, it was just a tour, after they were beating police officers who were, the absurdity of all of this. And I can't, like, you guys are not back the blue, because if you were, you would be extremely angry at Stephen Miller, who now is tweeting out that local law enforcement should surrender. He said surrender to ICE. Like, what is it? I want to know from our law enforcement friends what that means to you. What does it mean, surrender? He said, I'm not, you can go ahead and check it out. It's on his Twitter account. He said that you should just surrender to ICE agency because they have higher authority than you. And I really want to know from our law enforcement hate listeners or law enforcement. I know we have law enforcement that actually like us, but they probably won't call because they don't want anyone to recognize their voices. But what is this? You know that these guys are not law enforcement like you are. They are not trained the same way you are for public safety. And we know that by the fact that they did not render aid to Renee Good. They actually withheld aid to her as she bled out. And there was a whole group of doctors, by the way, who have come out in Minnesota to say that the fact that doctor was denied access to her to check to even see if she had a pulse does go against who they are as doctors and their ability to offer help. So spare me all of the, we don't just let anybody on the site. Okay, fine then. If that was the case, but those officers, one said to the doctor who said, I just want to check for a pulse. I'm a doctor. An agent said, I don't care. One of the guys said, we have medics, and nobody offered her help. As they were saying that, her body was over the steering wheel. No one helping her. I'm so angry about this. Anyway, like I said, ICE is not trained like the police. Here's the bare minimum they need to even apply and start the program, which is 47 days. 47 days of training is what they get. They need to do 32 push-ups. No, that's not right. 32 sit-ups. Lady B, we can do 32 sit-ups. I'm a 54-year-old mom, and I could do 32 push-ups, 15 push-ups, 32 sit-ups, and get this, a mile and a half, wait for it, in 14 minutes. Come on now. These folks are not trained like you are, and they are putting law enforcement lives in danger, but by eroding the trust that has been built up between law enforcement. There's been a lot of work done by municipal police departments in order to work together. Anyway, they're just putting cops in danger is all I'm saying. And ICE agents drew a gun on a cop. I'm sorry. Anyway. Hey, Jim, what's on your mind, my friend?
Hi, Patty. If I heard the word green again, I'm going to go insane. I was taken home in the hospital on St. Patrick's Day, all dressed in green. I was 5 days old. And when I hear green, I go, they got wall-to-wall Greenland on morning, noon, and night. There has to be somebody in that office got a strategy. These real estate, two clean real estates, the Israeli deal. The son-in-law and the other guy's another real estate thief. They love real estate. But what would I call them up, Patty? On February 1st, they're going to deny your $6 a day on SNAP. You have to do 80 hours worth of work or community service. This is who dreamt this? It had to be Musk or somebody in the Doge outfit that dreamt this up. Well, they make billions.
Yep.
And think of this. Now, I volunteered for a couple of food pantries, Patty, and it's not easy work there, Patty.
I know.
You take the deliveries, you put everything in different places. Some people are ambulatory. You got to take the groceries out to the car and everything. And I'd say to the director, I said, "My God, can't they just zip this up $10 a day or $15 a day? I mean, how can they live on $6 a day?
Yep.
And they're taking that away.
Yeah, because the cruelty is the point. Yep.
Yeah, I know, but Patty, ask him in Wisconsin when you're talking to Wisconsin. I know you got a lot on your mind. But say, what is their food supplement situation up there? Are the Republicans against feeding people, or is this just a? Yeah. Is this just? Well, I know that.
They would rather give subsidies to the richest people in the country than to help people who need it the most, who are choked off from resources because of the resources that the billionaires take. I got to get to another call. Thanks so much.
I know you do, Patty. All right, thank you, Patty.
Guess what time it is?
Paul, Welcome to Rapid Transmit.
Go, Paul. Go, Paul.
I think Caroline Levitt is the most arrogant, smug, and ignorant idiot I think I've ever heard. But, because Greenland has a glacier on it, that's called Iceland.
Yep.
Why doesn't he just start calling it Ice Cube? Yeah, we're going to take Ice Cube by force because it's got ice on it. But Iceland, by the way, doesn't have any ice on it. Iceland has a volcanic rock. So
yeah,
it's not a forgivable mistake.
These are not serious people.
These are not serious people. And also, no, Stephen Miller is wrong the federal authorities do not have higher authority. They have different jurisdiction, and they do not have the authority to enforce state laws, which is what the state and local police do. So if they surrender, there'll be nobody to enforce the law because ICE cannot enforce state laws.
Exactly. Thank you, Paul. And Jeff and Elgin, you get the final word before I go to the break. What's on your mind?
Oh, hey, cool. Hey, Patty, don't assume that some of these ICE agent, quote-unquote ICE agents patrolling the streets aren't also registered or, sworn police officers in some other jurisdiction who are moonlighting as ICE agents.
That makes sense.
And I know there's plenty of them that have some kind of grudge or some kind of feel a certain kind of way, whether it's about a woman in uniform or about a brown person in uniform. I feel like police are the worst at policing themselves sometimes. So just wanted to toss that out there because I'm sure there's a lot of beef on the streets. You know what I'm saying?
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Jeff.
This is the final stop for Rapid Transmit. Please continue to listen to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
And we'll be right back with Eoin Sullivan, freelance journalist based in Copenhagen on WCPT 820 and KKNW 1150 in Seattle.
Tom Hartman.
Autocrats generally, particularly those autocrats who have narcissistic personality disorder and are sociopaths, as is, in my opinion, Trump, typically do not tolerate high-profile people around them. They want to be the star of the show, and that's certainly been the history of Donald Trump. The only people that he will tolerate around him are people who, when he says, kiss my ass, they fall to their knees.
The Tom Hartman Radio Program, weekdays 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
WCPT 820 will be hosting a candidate forum for the 3 leading candidates for Illinois' open United States Senate seat in the Democratic primary on February 6th.
Please join us at the Plumbers Hall at 1340 West Washington in Chicago, or listen to the live broadcast.
Representative Raja Krishnamurthy, Representative Robin Kelly, and Illinois Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton will be discussing their stances on the issues and making their case for your vote.
WCPT hosts Patti Vasquez, Richard Chu, and of course Jonas Esposito will be moderating the forum.
To attend in person, go to heartlandsignal.com/WCPT820 and register. We'll have limited seats available, so please register early.
Meet the leading Senate Democratic candidates at a free WCPT Live Candidate Forum at Plumbers Union Hall, Local 130 on Washington Street in Chicago, Friday, February 6th.
The forum starts at 1 p.m. and is sponsored by Plumbers Union Local 130.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
No detours,
no distractions,
just bold ideas and real talk.
This is Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
We need to get some perspective on what is happening and how the world feels about the saber rattling that the president is doing, and by extension, we are as well. Joining us on the line is Eoin Sullivan, a freelance journalist based in Copenhagen. Hey, Eoin, how are you doing today?
Oh, very good. Good to speak to you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Oh, pardon. Let's get rid of that. First of all, let me just say thank you so much for joining us. I've been to Copenhagen. You're originally from Australia, is that right?
No, Ireland originally. Ireland
originally. All right. Well, we should talk more often. So you're working out of Copenhagen. What drew you to work there?
Oh, just the lifestyle, really. I came here about 9 years ago, and it was too good to leave, so I've been working here ever since.
I have to agree with you. I had the opportunity to go to Copenhagen about 18 years ago, and I absolutely loved it. And it was cold even then, but I loved the Stol. I loved everything about it. So thank you for joining us and for the work that you do. I think just in general, the world isn't really thrilled with us right now, are they?
No, thrill is one thing, but it's also a bit surprised with the recent developments involving Greenland. It's a bit of a shock over here, to be honest with you. But things have been, the last year or so have been interesting for a lot of people. So we're not completely surprised that things have gone this way, but it's certainly not what we were expecting.
Yeah. So when I was there was I believe it was the McCain-Obama race. And even then, and I will be honest, when I travel to Europe, I often want to put a maple leaf on my backpack so people don't think I'm an American. Because there's always kind of been this loud American perception of us, hasn't there?
Yes.
It's okay. You're not hurting my feelings, my friend. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned maple leaf. I remember those days back in the Bush administration. That used to be a thing. When I met Americans, they used to have the maple leaf. I think nowadays, it's there's so much information out there, and it's such a with Trump, it's such a singular identity, and the policies are so outlandish so often that I think we don't. In general, now I'm completely generalizing, but I think Europeans, and especially in Denmark, were able to differentiate between an American tourist or person living here and the policies that are coming out of the administration at the moment. So I don't think it goes personally. I don't think it goes personally. Now, that being said, with the recent events, if you were to come to Copenhagen, I'm sure in the middle of a couple of beers in a bar, I'm sure a Dane may turn to you and ask you what exactly you think about what's happening. But I think they'll be more willing to have a conversation than berate you or anything like that.
That happened in Scotland last year, and folks were delightful. And I told them I fear for my life. My mother's from Mexico originally, so truly.
Okay.
Okay. So talk to us a little bit. Explain to folks Greenland's autonomy and future independence, and so we better understand what's happening from that side of the planet and from Denmark specifically.
Sure. Of course. I just wanted to have you seen what happened in Davos in the last couple of hours?
That he couldn't distinguish between Iceland and Greenland, and now our press secretary says it's because there's Greenland's made out of ice, I believe, is now the story.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a really important point, because for a lot of people, especially a lot of European countries, this will be seen as a positive move, because there's been the pullback on tariffs and things like this, and there's been a calming of verbal escalation. But this won't leave anybody particularly happy in Denmark or Greenland, because the agreement that's been spoken about was between the president and the head of NATO. But the thing is that neither of those two people can agree on what's happening in Greenland, because Greenland has an autonomous government. Greenland has its own government. It's had its own government for many, many years. From 1979, it's had a version of home rule, and since 2009, it's had a very independent government. Of course, it's still very well connected to Denmark, but with this government comes control of these minerals that keep being spoken about. They have the right at any time to hold a referendum for their own independence. So it is a very strong and forward-thinking country that is completely being looked over by these conversations that are being thrown around by global powers, that is just not being discussed by the people who actually, legally speaking, have the control of the land.
Well, we already have military bases there. If we're doing this under the auspices of, we need to be able to protect ourselves, we already have the ability to do that. And I believe Denmark and, Greenland have said, talk to us and let us know if you want to. We have these empty old bases. If you want to reopen them, go for it, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Denmark and the U.S. have worked very closely for like half a century now. Like the U.S. has had military bases in Greenland since World War II, and Denmark and the U.S. have worked very closely in the years gone by. Now, whether you agree or disagree with the decision to go forward with these things, Denmark was involved in the Iraq War. Denmark was involved in the Afghan War. Denmark has helped. This, I don't know whether this made news in America, but Denmark helped the U.S. in recent years with clandestine information. They were helped spying on politicians in the European Union. They helped funnel information to the U.S. Government through underwater cables. So Denmark, I think, is very surprised by these recent moves, because it's, for all intents and purposes, it's been a very strong ally, and Greenland as well. So it's very surprising what's happening. Well, I mean, like we said, surprising, not surprising, Well, and I believe Denmark had the highest rate of casualties and the lives lost in Afghanistan, in places where they had come to our aid after 9/11. Similar numbers to the losses of the U.S. soldiers. They had the highest per capita death rates amongst coalition nations, folks. Which is, again, to your point, I'm equally surprised. And now there's something that I was not aware of, which are security threats in Scandinavia, which this is taking away from. Tell us about that. Wait, so this is kind of so. In the last few days, we've seen military personnel move to Greenland under the language being used is operations, military operations, training operations, and such. But if you look at the people involved or the countries involved, they're very clearly NATO countries. One in particular that I found very interesting was Estonia has been. Named as one of the countries involved in this operation. And I think the point is that if the US was to take an aggressive move towards the occupation of Greenland, it would pretty much null and void NATO. And that leaves a lot of countries at risk here in Scandinavia because while, of course, since the full invasion of Ukraine by Russia, there's of course a huge focus on that. There has been a lot of activity up here as well. There's been a lot of cutting of cables, a lot of spy ships in the Baltic, especially in Sweden, and also here in Denmark. In recent times, there's been unmarked drones flying over military bases and the airport. I myself was at the Copenhagen airport not 2 months ago, and there was military vehicles there with radar operating to keep an eye on these drones. So I think people aren't realizing that there's a real concern about what Russia may do in the not so distant future. And if NATO was to become null and void, it would leave a lot of big questions, of course, but I think realistically danger holds of opportunity for Russia in this place. So I think by these countries going to Greenland and by this very strong stance through NATO, it's trying to pull focus on the importance of having the alliance. And I think a lot of people are upset because whatever the end result of this situation is in Greenland, it's pulling away from real situations that people should be working towards, alliances should be working towards, countries that have been working together for decades should be focusing on a real present threat.
Are folks annoyed with Trump's lack of geographical knowledge when he says that we can't have Russia that close to Greenland when actually Russia is only 50 miles away from our northernmost state? Is that something that's coming?
No, I mean, no, I don't. Annoyed isn't it? See, the thing is, annoyed, if this was the very first sentence we heard out of the person's mouth, yeah, I'm sure. But I mean, given statements we've heard for, the last year and of course, the last administration he ran, nobody's surprised by these things. It's kind of just a feeling of being flabbergasted by the situation we've put in, really.
Yeah.
So no one's particularly surprised. We're upset by it.
Sure.
Greenland is very upset by this. Although in the long run, this is going to be a game changer for Greenland. There's been such a focus on Greenland in recent times. So one strange peculiar bonus is people are going to know a lot more about Greenland. Geography, the people living there, the hopeful, the future of what we in Denmark. There's a very strong understanding that it's going to be an independent country as soon as it has the economic strength to do so. So I think it's good in one sense that people have more knowledge about Greenland going forward.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I'm so grateful for this, for your insight, your perspective. I know it's very late, or are you up early for tomorrow? I'm not sure.
No, I'm going to head to bed after this, but this is good. It's a nice way to set me off to sleep. It's okay.
Is it? Do you generally stay up this late?
Well, with the news, sorry. The news at the moment is keeping me up. I mean, the phone is pinging every 15 minutes with some new piece of information. So yeah, I probably will be up at this stage anyway.
Oh well, then Owen, can we talk to you again? Because we can call you 15 minutes earlier and be done by this time again next time we talk. Because I would love to touch base with you. Get a feeling for the other side of the world. Well, not the whole other side. Well, that's pretty close to the other side of the world. But yeah, I really appreciate your time and your insight. And please tell them that yes, there are Americans here who are hold on a second. I'm getting choked up, who are appalled at what's happening. And I just want to say that we really are. Before we go, actually, one more question. Were people soothed? Not soothed isn't the good word. There's not going to be anything soothing coming from this man. But were fears kind of allayed today with what he said in regards to the tariffs and that we're not going to do the military movement, even though that doesn't really seem 100%. It didn't seem quite definitive on that, right?
Yeah, sure. I think, yes. Like the Minister for Foreign Affairs here in Denmark did come out and say, the day ended better than it started. So I think everyone's going to take the little wins that they can. But I mean, we're living in a time of uncertainty, and nobody's going to rest, on their laurels about the work being done. I mean, I saw the Swedish government coming out and making statements that this was good work. But the truth of the matter is nobody feels 100% certain of what the truth is next. I mean, the agreement being spoken about, there's absolutely no details being given. There's uncertainty about how this agreement could be made. So maybe other European countries, such as the UK and Germany and places like this, that were threatened with these 10% and then eventually possibly 25% tariffs, sure, they'll take a sigh of relief, because there was a lot of conversation on the news, on radio, about what this would mean if it came through. But I think nobody's going to be sleeping completely easy tonight. I think we're going to be prepared for something brand new the next day. Yeah, no kidding. Well, on behalf of the folks who are not in agreement with what he's doing, sorry and thank you. No problem. Thank you very much for speaking to me. I'm very glad to be able to let's do it again share this information with people. Well, I might get greedy with your time and talk to you next week, but I'll see what your availability is, my friend. Wonderful. All right. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you very much. That's Eoin Sullivan, a freelance journalist based in Copenhagen. Thank you so much. Take care. Be well. Be safe. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Let's take a break here, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Ashley Aune, State Representative of Missouri, House District 14 in Plate County, Kansas. More in a moment on WCPT. Oh, Kansas City, Northern Kansas City. More in a moment on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KKNW 1150 in Seattle. We're glad you're all here. I kind of wish I was in Copenhagen.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. An extreme cold watch goes into effect Thursday night. Tonight, a little bit of blowing snow possible with a low temperature of 14 degrees. West winds up to 45 miles an hour. On Thursday, a chance of light snow showers with a high temperature of 25 degrees. West winds up to 35 miles an hour, so blowing snow possible once again. Thursday night, partly cloudy, 6 below zero. Wind chills as cold as 30 below. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 28.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive.
Greg is on the line from Lake in the Hills.
I always recommend your show to everybody. I just really like your style. I like that you're a reporter, that you've got a background in reporting, and I just find your show and all your guests, like Jim especially, and Bobby and Dave, I think it is. I listen to all the time, and, you're great.
Joan Esposito, weekday afternoons 2 to 5 on WCPT 820.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 North Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
or Pete.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue our drive home. Joining us on the line is House Minority Leader of the Missouri House of Representatives. We have on the line with us Ashley Aune. Hey, Representative, how are you doing, Minority Leader?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm trying to figure out why this isn't going down. Are you still hearing the music? Oh, let me turn it off. There we go. Hi, Minority Leader. Thank you so much for joining us. I hit the wrong button there. I believe last time we spoke, they were trying to gerrymander the remaining Democrats out of Missouri. Was that right?
That is absolutely correct. Yeah, they tried to take one of our last two Democratic representatives in Congress.
And we have not had a chance to catch up. How did that all turn out? What was
so they were successful in passing the map, but since then there's been a really robust opposition to it mounted in the form of a voter-enacted initiative petition to undo the maps, essentially. There's a way for Missouri voters to say no thank you to something that the legislature passes. And in this case, they collected over 300,000 signatures for the effort when they only needed a little over 100,000.
Oh, wow.
That's how many Missourians are frustrated and opposed to this map that they passed. So my hope is that it's not going to end up ever being enacted.
You know, we've seen a lot of special elections around the country where, you know, whether it's the numbers have moved significantly, like Afton Bain in Tennessee, while she didn't win, I believe there was a gain of like 11 points or something where Trump had won by big numbers, and places like Iowa, you know, all over the country. Have you guys had any special elections that have been a surprise by the numbers?
We have not had any here in Missouri, but we've been watching what's been going on around the country, and we have been really excited to see some of. I mean, Mississippi flipping the Senate.
Yeah.
Or you know, like that's wild, and you know, there's so much momentum right now for Democrats across the country, and we are absolutely feeling that here in Missouri. Whether it's the momentum around opposing the maps, or opposing this amendment that they're going to put on the ballot next November to undo the abortion rights that we codified into our Constitution by a ballot measure in 2024. People are frustrated. They're frustrated with the federal administration, and they're frustrated with the Republican supermajority in Missouri.
You know, I think a lot about what we need to do long term. And while, you know, I think that people are turning on the policies of the current regime, I think that we also need to start working on making sure that we keep fighting for the things that should be a draw for the Democratic Party. And I think part of that is the proposal of your governors is opposing those kinds of things. Tell us a little bit about the state income tax that he wants to replace the state income tax with higher and expanded sales taxes. These are the kinds of things that we need to highlight and show how it's going to hurt working families, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, his proposal is essentially to eliminate the state income tax and replace it with sales tax. And not only just adding sales tax to our current sales tax, they want to expand what can be taxed to include services, which the voters about 10 years ago went to the ballot box and said, we do not want to be taxed on services. And so once again, the Missouri Republican Party is completely ignoring the will of the voters. And they're trying to make life way more expensive for folks. I mean, right now, we don't, in Missouri, we don't pay sales tax on things like taking our dog to the vet or getting our oil changed or getting a haircut. But that's what they would want to expand sales tax to include. And it's, the one concern that I have that I don't think enough folks are talking about here in Missouri yet is how it'll affect our seniors.
Yeah.
In Missouri, our seniors don't have if they're on Social Security, they don't have an income tax burden on that Social Security income, but their sales tax burden would rise astronomically. It's absurd what we're proposing to do to seniors in Missouri, and it's absurd what we're proposing to do to working families, and House Democrats are working really hard to oppose it.
And our people, this is the kind of thing where it sounds attractive, right? Oh, I don't have to pay an income tax anymore. They're not going to take it out of my check anymore. But it's hard because we know that when we're explaining, you're losing sometimes. And whenever someone hears tax, we're not going to tax you anymore. But it's really hard to get that message across that the sales tax is going to be way more painful. And how are residents responding?
Yeah, well, people are frustrated, and I've made several videos the last few weeks just to explain it to folks, so people really understand what's going on and what's at stake. And the response I've been getting is wild. People are so mad. And one of the points I've made, which I think is something that folks in Jefferson City aren't paying enough attention to, is that the economic hubs of the state of Missouri are in St. Louis and Kansas City, both of which are on borders. So we've got a situation where folks will absolutely just take their purchase power across state lines to avoid the astronomical sales tax here in Missouri. Kansas eliminated sales tax on groceries. I live 15 minutes away from the Kansas state border. So, it's really interesting to the mental gymnastics I think the supermajority has to go through to justify a proposal like this.
Amazing. Again, we're talking to the minority leader of the Missouri House of Representatives, Ashley Aune. Are you up for election then this year?
I am. I'm up for re-election for my final term in the House.
Oh, do you have term limits?
We do. We're only able to serve 8 years in the House. So I've already, I'm on my third term, and 2026 will be my last run for the House.
And how is that worked out in terms of, because a lot of, I believe Michigan did this as well. And there are folks who, argue against it, and obviously people who support it. How long has Missouri had term limits on General Assembly members?
It's only been, I can't say exactly. I want to say less than 15 years. And it's a double-edged sword, in my opinion. When lawmakers rotate out of the building so quickly, you start to realize that the folks who have the most power and institutional knowledge are staff and lobbyists.
Yep.
And do we really want lobbyists to have that much power in the halls of the Capitol? I don't think so. I would argue no. There is something to say for lawmakers who really specialize in a certain area of policy and, rise up the ranks to become, chairmen of committees, for instance, and really are subject matter experts on that policy. There's also, an argument to be made that folks should not be just retiring into the legislature. So I see both sides, but when I see good people who have to step aside just because of term limits and not because of their lack of interest or capacity to serve their constituents, it is disappointing, and I think it's tough.
Yeah, no, I agree. We're talking again to Minority Leader of the Missouri House of Representatives, Ashley Aune. We want to take a break here if you don't mind hanging out with us for another segment so we can continue talking about the future of Democrats in Missouri. Sound good?
Of course. Sounds good.
Excellent. Let's take a break here. We'll be right back on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KKNW 1150. If you have any questions or comments, you can text at 773-763-9278. That's 773-763-9278. More after this.
A Better Life with Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
There's a bit of a problem with the way some people think about their health. In their minds, something isn't a problem or doesn't pose a threat until it has a label, like diabetes. But that can put you behind the eight ball, because you're losing out on valuable time to address whatever it is that needs your attention. A new study out of Northwestern University's Feinberg School of Medicine found that 99% of people who had a heart attack, stroke, or other cardiovascular event did have warning signs beforehand, including high blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, or smoking. If I can offer you a bit of advice, if you're trying to get motivated to make changes in your life in the pursuit of better health, don't think about it as giving something up or as fighting aging. What you should be doing is trying to improve your longevity. Reframing it can make a big difference. I'm Dr. Sanjay Gupta, helping you live a better life.
You still thinking job change in the new year?
Yeah, I need something that's in high demand and more stable in this economy.
IT?
Yeah, cybersecurity, maybe even AI.
That's what I did.
Really? How?
Went to My Computer Career. You don't need any prior experience, and you could start your new career in a matter of months. A lot of IT pros go to school there, too, to level up.
Sweet. Are classes online or on campus?
Both.
Wow, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Make this your year. Take the free career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu, an Elite CompTIA certification partner. Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including VA benefits.
My Lowe's Pro Rewards members go big during Lowe's Pro Savings Days. Get member volume discounts plus an extra 5% off eligible orders with a quote of $2,000 or more. Plus, buy more and save more with up to 25% off DWV pipes when you spend $250 or more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 123. Exclusions, more terms and restrictions apply. Can't be combined with any contract or special pricing. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Visit the Pro Desk or Lowe's.com/terms for more details. Subject to change.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Hi, this is Patti Vasquez. We appreciate all our fans of Driving It Home, and your support of show sponsor Minocqua Brewing Company ensures that our important conversations continue right here on WCPT each weekday from 5 to 7 p.m. You can now find the Resistance IPA, Labor Lager, or the Resistance Pilsner beer at several Illinois locations, including Arminetti Wine and Spirits in Woodstock, Pineapple and Company in North Riverside, Lions Beverage Depot in Arlington Heights, and MP's Liquor, Wine and Beer in North Aurora. For a full list of Chicagoland locations, please visit MinocquaBrewingCompany.com. As always, please vote and drink responsibly.
From city streets to political beats, you're driving it home with Patti Vasquez, where progressive talk fuels the ride.
Thank you for joining us as we hold on a second. What is happening here? I don't know why I can't control the board today. I'll have Matt fix that button too. But we are on the line with Minority Leader of the House of the Missouri House of Representatives, Ashley Aune. Now what's happening? Did we lose her? I don't know what just happened. Oh, no. Oh, hold on a second. Is it... Matt, is there something on that side? Did I do something with this phone over here? Maybe? Did I screw something up? As is my way. Did I do anything? Did I take the phone off the hook? Let's see. We are going to continue our conversation because I know we have at least one comment from our text screen. Let's see if we can get the... Nope. Let's see. Should we try again? And maybe I was moving some equipment around. Sometimes you don't know when I unhook equipment, and today it seems like I'm having some issues. Yeah, there we go. Let's see if we can try again. Here, hit the button. Try here. Hey, Rep. There we go. Minority Leader. There? Hi. Sorry about that. We're rearranging some things in the studio, and I probably pushed the wrong button. Thank you so much for hanging in there with us. I do have I have a comment from a listener because we were talking about how, when you put something on a ballot or you try to sell a new initiative when it's related to taxes, people's brains just go, I don't want a new tax, or if you're taking a tax away from me, I want that, get rid of my income tax. And somebody said, why don't we need to change the language? Maybe, I know it sounds dodgy, but Republicans have shamed that word so much. Folks react negatively, but to be fair, it goes all the way back to our beginning of our country. No taxation without representation. However, you were representing. Have you guys something like a progressive tax is something that would never fly in Missouri, would it?
No, it wouldn't. I do have a member who has in my caucus who has proposed just a reimagination of how we approach income tax in the state, which would actually, ask folks making more than $1 million a year to pay their fair share here in Missouri. And, frankly, it's also not anything more than our income tax was before we lowered it several years ago. So, it's not astronomical. But right now in Missouri, we are using an income tax code from the 1930s. If you make more than $9,000 a year in Missouri, you are in the top tax bracket.
What?
Here. Absolutely. It's insane. It's insane. When people learn that, they are flabbergasted. So, we are doing everything we can to sound the alarm bells about this. One of my favorite things that has come out of this proposal is that I've started calling our governor Tax Hike Mike, and that really appears to be catching on.
Wow. That's crazy. And this is the thing that I've talked about, like in Iowa. What is your minimum wage in Missouri?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know exactly because it's been changing on triggers.
I'll check because in Iowa it is $7.25, and they've convinced Republicans have convinced Iowans that their income is impacted or is the result of the president when the state has the ability to raise their income tax. Not their income tax, their minimum wage. And so
right, and so we are at 15 an hour, and that started January 1 of this year. But it's we are in a really tough place in Missouri. Not only the income tax revenues, they make up 2/3 of our general revenue funds. 2/3 of our general revenue funds. And we are already facing a budget cycle this year where state agencies have been asked to cut their budgets by 20%. We are seeing the state tighten their belt in ways that are going to hurt Missouri families. And our governor is going to start asking Missourians to pay more and get less from their government.
And yet it'll still be, the fault of Democrats, even though the state is run by Republicans, both in the General Assembly and in the executive branch. And by the way, tell us a little bit about what's happening with the Secretary of State.
Yeah, well, our Secretary of State has not been a fan of the efforts to overturn the map that was passed last fall in that special session. He has done everything he can to blockade the people's voices, whether it's not counting signatures or trying to change, dates and use the power of his position to silence Missourians. So one of my colleagues, Representative Will Jobe from Independence, Missouri, has filed a resolution to start an investigation for an impeachment of our Secretary of State. Knowing, of course, that as a member of the super minority, I don't think that resolution is even going to be referred to committee. But it was important for us to file because Missourians need to know that what is happening in the Secretary of State's office and the Attorney General's office, and frankly the entire executive branch here in Missouri, run by Republicans, it's not okay and it's undemocratic. And so, we may not have power, but we can tell Missourians what their government has been up to.
Absolutely. Now, you were talking earlier about how people are angry, they're frustrated, there is more energy possibly behind electing Democrats. Is that right now?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Not only that, but, as minority leader, my job is not just here inside the building. It is also outside of the building. And that means running a House Democratic caucus that flips seats and supports incumbents. And so outside of the building, I have been raising a record amount of money for the caucus. We have recruited some incredible candidates to flip some seats across the state. The DLCC recently announced they are investing here in Missouri for the first time in decades. And, there's just a lot of momentum and a lot of excitement around some of the folks who are out there in their communities messaging on how to make life more affordable for Missourians, how to keep government out of their lives, and frankly, how to keep their communities safe.
Well, when you say on those issues, keep government out of their lives, what are some of the key elements that have outraged Missourians and they're ready to flip to the other side?
Well, there are so many egregious bills that are filed every single year. Just this year, a senator has filed a bill to create what appears to be a militia, a state-sanctioned militia that would be sort of partially trained, like peacekeeping forces that would be responsible for responding to emergencies at schools. And they want to call them the Missouri Rangers. I mean, this is the same man who filed a bill to put a bounty on the heads of folks who were here who are undocumented. This is the most extreme ideas come out of some of my colleagues in this building, and a lot of the times it's because of the way our elections are structured. In Missouri, there are so many what I would consider safe Republican seats that doesn't really encourage a Democrat to run in that district. So what happens is there's a Republican primary. Multiple Republicans run against each other and try to out-conservative the other to win a primary. So then when that person wins a primary, that community sends its most extreme Republican down to Jefferson City to write insane laws and propose the craziest ideas. And, frankly, I think Missourians are waking up to it, whether it's how they continue to come back and vote against what we tell them to do at the ballot box, or, just constant attacks on rights and making things more expensive and more difficult for us. They're waking up to it, and they're frustrated, and they're coming out in droves to say, no, thank you.
Well, I hate that it's coming. It has to be through a lesson hard learned for folks. I mean, I wonder about the farmers in Missouri, because we know that, the tariffs have had a negative impact in so many ways. How are they reacting?
Yeah, it's tough, because I think that, one of the challenges that I think Democrats in Missouri have is that there are a lot of communities, rural communities, farming communities specifically, that, just feel really like the Republican brand is ingrained in who they are, right? And it's just hard to give that up. And so, when we talk to farmers, when we talk to our friends in agriculture, there is so much frustration, but there's also, I think, some fear. There's fear about speaking out against an administration that is ready to, lash out and punish the first person that speaks up against them, right? And so I think that there's concern that if they do start speaking up about their dissatisfaction with, the current administration, that it won't be an effective way to get their issues resolved, I should say. And so, I think there's a lot of frustration. Unfortunately, I just don't think that there's a whole lot of interest in what the Democrats are selling quite yet. But, like I said, as leader, my job is to get the message out there and to flip seats. And that means spending time in all parts of Missouri, regardless of whether there's an elected Democrat around. I'm the only elected Democrat in a partisan position in my county right now, and I'm the minority leader here in Missouri.
Wow.
So it can happen, right? We flip seats, we do the work, we dig in, and we will bring more balance to this legislature, but it will take time.
Well, great work. And it was wonderful to catch up with you again. I appreciate everything that you're doing. And we wanted to learn more, especially of how we can help. Folks can go to ashleyformissouri.com to stay up to date on the work that she's doing as Missouri State Minority Leader. Again, that's Ashley Aune. And we're grateful to have had you on the show today. And really great work. And go get them, my friend. Go fix Missouri. No pressure.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it, ma'am. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Let's take a break here. When we come back, it's going to be the Up North podcast with our friends Kirk Bangstad, Ben Cominos, and the whole team. Bye. More to this on WCPT and KKNW.
Milo's Pro Rewards members go big during Lowe's Pro Savings Days. Get member volume discounts plus an extra 5% off eligible orders with a quote of $2,000 or more. Plus, buy more and save more with up to 25% off DWV pipes when you spend $250 or more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 123. Exclusions, more terms and restrictions apply. Can't be combined with any contract or special pricing. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Visit the Pro Desk or Lowe's.com/terms for more details. Subject to change.
Hair Volume from New Nordic will make your hair look thick and healthy. Hair Volume is available online at Amazon and newnordicusa.com or in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. President Trump's backed down from his tariff threat against allies over his insistence that the U.S. take ownership of Greenland. This after a meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, in which they agreed on a framework for a future Arctic security deal.
Really fantastic for the USA. Gets everything we wanted, including especially real national security.
But Saga Magani reports just hours before, the president was questioning NATO's commitment to protecting America.
In a speech to global elites in Switzerland, the president said the U.S. relationship with the alliance has been a one-way street.
I know we'd be there for them. I don't know that they'd be there for us.
Hours later,
let me tell you, they will.
NATO Chief Mark Rutte noted soldiers from allied countries died alongside Americans in Afghanistan after 9/11, the only time the alliance has invoked its Article 5 Mutual Defense Clause.
So you can be assured, absolutely, if ever U.S. will be under attack, your allies will be with you. Absolutely, there's an absolute guarantee. I really want to tell you this because it is important. It pains me if you think it is not.
The president's response?
Well, I hope that that's true.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The news helped spur a rebound on Wall Street, with the Dow, S&P, and the Nasdaq each gaining about 1.2%. In other news, the Supreme Court heard arguments over President Trump's attempt to fire Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. The justices, like Brett Kavanaugh, seemed inclined to keep Cook in her job.
What goes around comes around. All of the current president's appointees would likely be removed for cause on January 20th, 2029, if there's a Democratic president, or January 20th, 2033.
And the AP's obtained an Immigration and Customs Enforcement memo that reveals the agency allows immigration officers to forcibly enter homes to make arrests without a judicial warrant. This is AP News. Centuries of love letters are going on display at Britain's National Archives. Charles de Ledesma reports from London.
The letters showcase the many facets of love. The exhibition's curator, Victoria Iglikowski-Broad, says the documents include legendary romances from British history, featuring royalty, politicians, celebrities and spies, and also stories of everyday people. The exhibition includes early 20th century classified ads seeking same-sex romance, letters from sweethearts to soldiers, and a medieval story about heartbreak. Highlights include a poignant letter from Robert Dudley to Queen Elizabeth I, and a plea from the father of London East End gangster twins Reggie and Ronnie Cray. Love Letters opens on Saturday and runs to April 12 at London's National Archives. Admission is free. Charles de Ledesma, London.
There's more news at apnews.com. I'm Ben Thomas. Thanks for listening.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now your WCPT 820 weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. An extreme cold watch goes into effect Thursday night. Tonight, a little bit of blowing snow possible with a low temperature of 14 degrees. West winds up to 45 miles an hour. On Thursday, a chance of light snow showers with a high temperature of 25 degrees. West winds up to 35 miles an hour, so blowing snow possible once again. Thursday night, partly cloudy, 6 below zero. Wind chills as cold as 30 below. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 27.
If you're purchasing a new home or refinancing your existing home, you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Suzanne called after hearing me explain discount points on my radio show because her son was purchasing a home in Colorado. I answered Suzanne's questions and encouraged her son to call me for a free consultation. Suzanne was so impressed with the service I provided, she wrote this 5-star Google review. Quote, I sent David an email today with a question about discount points that I heard him talk about on his radio show. And he called me back this evening with a complete explanation. I'm so impressed with his responsiveness and knowledge. Thank you, Suzanne, for the amazing review. I strongly encourage everyone to check out Team Hochberg's close to 600 5-star Google reviews. Team Hochberg helped Suzanne and thousands of radio listeners, but we can't help if you don't call 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. That's 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. Lower.com, equal housing lender, MLS 112-461.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez. From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing ass says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
It's up 9 for the Up North podcast, and I believe we have our friends.
Also running a radio show here with no audio.
I don't.
You're doing great.
Can you
You're
not hear
doing
me?
Great.
You can't hear me?
Great.
Keep up the good work. We can't hear a thing you're saying.
Well, Patty's figuring that out. I want to introduce everybody for the show today. We've got a great show. We got Ben Cominos from WHBY, which stands for Why Hot Boys Yodel.
Yeah, there you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Excellent.
I could never remember the tagline for his station in Appleton.
Now you can.
Now I'll never forget it. Why Hot Boys Yodel. And we got Patti Vasquez from WCPT 820 AM in Chicago. And then subbing today is our producer, who's Chris Larson. I think Senator Chris Larson, somehow the snow or the cold broke down his car. And
What?
so he's in a bus going back to Milwaukee from Madison on the way home. And he didn't think that would be too amenable to being on the radio today. So Amy is going to take over for Chris. Amy's usually behind the scenes, but tonight she's right here with us. So the show tonight is going to be, all these people that we were. So Jerry, the producer of Patty's show, and I and Amy were all in Chicago this weekend. We met with a ton of activists, a lot of people who are on Substack just like we are. And so many of them have gone to Minneapolis because that is the epicenter of this new escalation of ICE brutality. Yes, they've been in Chicago. Yes, they've been in LA, but they haven't been shooting and maiming, and just making life miserable for American citizens like they are in Minnesota. So, this first segment, we're going to talk about what we can be doing and what states should be doing to slow down ICE. We're going to talk about what Wisconsin's doing and what we should be doing at the federal level in the second segment. Then we're going to talk about our crazy imperialistic tendencies with Venezuela and Greenland in the third segment. And in the fourth segment, we're going to talk about our surprise, which will be the Epstein files, because it's all a surprise to everybody. But first, Patty.
Yeah. I'm ready.
What is, so ICE is in Minneapolis. What is the latest in terms of, what Governor Walz has done, what Attorney General Ellison has done to try to slow down ICE?
Well, they're trying to slow them down. Here's the problem. I want to address the fact that they're both in Chicago and in Minneapolis. Judges have ruled that Bovino and his goons cannot deploy chemical weapons against protesters and individuals they're going after. They cannot use force on journalists or legal observers unless they are clearly interfering with law enforcement. We know how that goes. We know that in Chicago and in the surrounding areas, they blew right through that. And we're seeing footage today of Bovino just throwing these canisters, like kind of taunting people who aren't anywhere near him, clearly not interfering with the work that they're doing, just launching it into a crowd of people. And it's just like this green gas that can cause respiratory problems. And I also, the chief of police, Chief Burley from one of the areas near Minneapolis, had a press conference yesterday. He said that his off-duty police officers are being not just pulled over because they're brown, essentially, but one of their officers was boxed in. They approached her car with their weapons drawn when she tried to take a video of the instance of the interaction. They knocked her phone out. They're treating their off-duty police officers like they're criminals as well because they happen to be brown. When we were told, but we're being specific, we're going after criminals, and clearly they're going after off-duty police officers. We know that Governor Walz and Mayor Frey and Attorney General Ellison are under investigation for, I guess, essentially they're accusing them of what Trump actually did on January 6th. They're accusing them of inciting violence against ICE officers who are going into communities and causing more violence that wasn't there prior to their chaos that they brought. Did you ask me a question? Sorry.
Yeah, no. Thank you for getting us up to date. So, what I just don't understand, and what I need to read in the news or need to talk to folks on the ground in Minneapolis or the Twin Cities, is that if they're continuing to break all these laws, what is the next step? What is the pushback? Because if a federal judge in Minnesota has said they can't do these things and they're continuing to do them, what is the pushback? I'm going to follow it up with Ben. To me, we've got activists taking video of people breaking these laws. We have people called legal observers who are just, activists who are there who know the law a little bit better. Why are we relying on volunteers or activists when, if ICE is breaking the law, shouldn't we be relying on state law enforcement or Minneapolis police officials? And shouldn't we be relying on Minnesota's Department of Justice to be doing the jobs that seemingly these activists are doing?
Yeah, fundamentally, Kirk, I think what you're seeing is the people who've been put in charge to stop this kind of stuff are scared. And if you're looking for a synonym for scared, it's Democrats. Sorry, I almost made it a full sentence. What we need to focus on right here, and Patty kind of predicted where I was going to head with this. We saw a plainclothes police officer get accosted by ICE agents. They smacked the phone out of her hand. Only at that moment did she decide to identify herself as a police officer. And you know what happened? They immediately turned around. They didn't apologize. They didn't act contrite. They didn't act like they made a mistake. But you know what they did? They tucked tail and they ran because somebody with actual authority, real police, scared away the fake police. And if our government officials had the guts, the intestinal fortitude to put them in a position to do something, they do not have the guts to stand up to these guys. But they won't do it because, in my opinion, they are afraid that it's going to incite some kind of civil war. And that kind of gives the whole game away at the end of the day. It seems like something that should be done, even in plain clothes. They are scared to take these people on. I equated it to when a cult leader is met by somebody who is sure of themselves. Cult leaders thrive when you find somebody who's insecure, scared, confused about where life is headed. The second you come across a doctor or somebody that is doing something in society, you all of a sudden can make that cult leader look very stupid. That's what ICE is. They are fake police. And the second anybody with real authority, if ICE had any capacity to do something impressive, they'd be police. The reason they're ICE is because they can't make it as police. So the reason why you're not seeing people actually do the things they need to do is because I think it would be too effective, like honest to God. And then it would be a matter of pushback from there. And I think a lot of the higher ups are scared of what that would look like.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Did you see Stephen Miller's tweet about how local law enforcement needs to surrender because the ICE agents are the only ones that are enforcing the law? And by the way, law enforcement, they are not law enforcement. They have a singular mission, which is immigration. They are not trained the same way as law enforcement, as our municipal police departments. They don't have public safety training, as we saw with Renee Good, because they should have rendered aid. But let's not go on the whole other thing.
Wait, so I saw a video of, like, I think it might have been in New York City, because I think New York City cops are a little bit more bold, potentially, just like the doctor analogy you were giving, Ben. I think I saw New York City cops actually arresting ICE agents because they've been just harassing brown cops in New York City.
You're not seeing the mass deployment in New York because they know they're lucky it's just arrests. Like, honest to God, New York's a little grittier than what's going on in Minnesota. No offense to our Minnesota listeners. You're very nice people. I'm from the East Coast, and like barely the East Coast. It's a different attitude where I was raised than it is in the Midwest. That's for sure.
I kind of thought this might be the problem. Those are fantasy videos. There's a lot of AI videos going around of New York police officers arresting ICE agents. And I just Googled it, and it says videos of NYPD officers arresting ICE agents are not real.
I was going to say, I didn't think they deployed in New York for that exact reason. And it turns out that that's the case. It's the same. I said it to you in our one-on-one, Kirk. It's the reason you don't see them in LA. It's the reason you don't see them in New York is because the city's too big and there's too many cops.
Before we go to the next segment, I wanted to also we're talking about what is happening in Minnesota specifically because it's ground zero for ICE terrorism. I just signed on to this yesterday. I heard about it 2 days ago, but labor groups in the Twin Cities particularly, but throughout Minnesota are leading the charge here, but they're not calling it a general strike because I think that's not what they want people to know it as, but they're asking everybody not to go to work. They're asking students to not go to school, and they're asking people to not buy anything this Friday, September 23rd. I believe January 23rd. And so I heard about it for 2 days. I'm like, no way. Because we've been talking about, like, you know, the Minocqua Brewing Company and this podcast, we've been talking about general strikes for a year now, because this is if you can't have free and fair elections, the only other way to have regime change that's not violent is to have a general strike or a boycott. And so they're doing a stress test. This is called a stress test, where you do 1 day and you see if you all can organize and do it. And if you can, then you scare the bejesus out of the federal government, and you scare the bejesus out of the businesses like Target that are letting ICE stage their raids in their parking lot, letting ICE come in and take away their employees. Patty, what have you heard about this?
I've heard people, try to get some momentum behind this, and I know we've talked about it for a long time, and people want to know what they can do, and yet I think that there's still sort of this it doesn't seem more. There was supposed to be a walkout yesterday. People were supposed to walk out of their businesses at 2:00, I believe, during the wherever they were. Ben, were you going to say that you've heard more?
I have a theory as to why you might feel that way, because I actually did a segment about it today. Mainstream media, including the leftist networks like MSNBC and CNN, are straight up not covering it, because I believe if this were to work, they are nervous that people are going to catch on to the fact that general strikes might be effective to, I don't know, increase taxes on billionaires and get Medicare for all. So they're nervous that if this happens with ICE, they are not giving it the coverage it deserves. Here's a fun fact. New York City already committed to joining Minneapolis. Who here knew that even happened?
I didn't know.
Exactly. Nobody's covering it in the mainstream media. And this is the kind of stuff that's sliding under the radar that you would think in the opposition resistance that is Rachel Maddow and MSNBC, that this would be wall-to-wall coverage.
But if they're not sending out a press release, look, we're the biggest progressive radio station in the country. If I'm not getting a press, something we can get the word out. I want to be a place that is a call to action for people who need to know these things. I'm just saying.
I think we need to figure out our pipelines better, because I can't tell you where I found it, but I know I found it. It's out there, and I don't have sources, I don't have guests, I don't have connections. I just read, and it's out there. So it's happening and it's being ignored.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we're going to take a break here, I believe. It's time to take a break. We are hanging out with our friends from the Up North podcast. It's Kirk Bangstad, the fearless leader of the Minocqua Brewing Company. Go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com. Sign up for our Substack as well. Support the work they do there. There's a great marketplace there, but also order some progressive brews. They're so good, and some great swag. Ben Cominos, host of Outside the Box on WHBY. Go to WHBY.com. Amy Thomas, also one of our fearless leaders, keeping the wheels on the tracks. Let's take a break here and come back in a moment on WCPT 820, Heartland Signal, KKNW 1150 Seattle, and our friends listening in Minneapolis on KTNF AM 950. We love you. Sorry. Wish we could do more.
Believe it or not,
are you looking for more in this world? Are you ready for something bigger? Then we are looking for you. The big-hearted, the bold, the messy and the gutsy, the teachers, the growers, the builders, the skilled, the sharers, the change makers. We need you. We are the Peace Corps. In more than 60 countries, we go all in and all out. We are volunteers, partners, communities, working together, living together, bringing our experience, passion, and joy to building a better world together. From tackling climate change in Mexico to keeping kids healthy in Kenya, from sustainable farming in the Philippines to education in Kosovo. We learn more, give more, share freely, and serve boldly. Are you ready to tackle the tough stuff? To go the distance to make a difference? Then we have a place where you belong. Join us at peacecorps.gov.
After serving in the military, life can seem like an endless loop. But the cycle can be broken. You're not alone. Visit MakeTheConnection.net to learn more.
When I first had my baby, I'd get comments all the time about how happy I must be. I remember thinking, I want to be happy. Why don't I feel that way? It was hard to admit that, even to my doctor. But I'm glad I did. She told me it was postpartum depression, and that is very treatable. These days, things are feeling good, and we're both happier about that. Right, little man? I'll take that as a yes.
Mental health care is working for Simone. See what it can do for you at mentalhealthcareworks.org. A message from the American Psychiatric Association Foundation.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
And we are back with our coverage with our Up North podcast. Kirk, take it away.
We talked about what was going on at Ground Zero in the Twin Cities in Minnesota for ICE terrorism. And now I wanted to kind of pivot to what's going on in Wisconsin, because it's surely ICE is coming. Well, they're already here, but I believe they're going to come in mass like they've come to the Twin Cities, but Ben may disagree with me on that. And then I also want to talk a little bit about what's going on with the continuing resolution, which has budgetary implications for ICE and the Department of Homeland Security. Okay, so first of all, Senator Chris Larson was supposed to kind of answer a lot of these questions for us today, and he's on a bus home to Milwaukee at the moment. But so I asked Amy to do some quick research to make sure that we knew what was going on. Amy, what's happening, or what have we read in the news, at least in terms of what Governor Evers, what our legislature, what our law enforcement, what are we doing to prepare for the type of terrorism and abuse and harassment that ICE is handing out in Minnesota?
I love this. And thank you for setting me up, right? I am not a legislator. I work behind the screen, behind the cameras. But I do also work very closely with advocacy groups in both Milwaukee and in Madison, as well as across the state. I like to lurk in the signal chats just to kind of understand what's going on across the state. So I pay attention to how policies are actually playing out on the ground. So when we talk about is Wisconsin, what are we doing to prepare for an escalation? I would say not much, at least not publicly or proactively. And I think that's the key word, right? And Ben, I feel like you'll know a lot about this because we often talk about that with Democrats, right? Like they're not very proactive about things. They'll come in and try. Yep, right. Okay. So we've seen statements acknowledging what's happened in Wisconsin, but there's no coordinated legislative response, no emergency guidance to local governments, and no move to pause or reassess ICE cooperation agreements. I did read an article earlier that Governor Evers says that he is absolutely preparing for the possibility of increased ICE activity in Wisconsin. But so far, people haven't seen what that preparation actually looks like in practice. So there's no plan, no guidance to local governments, and no visible effort to rein in cooperation. So much of the work that we're seeing and hearing about right now to protect community members is being done by non-electeds and community members themselves.
So let me stop you there. I want to talk about counties in a second. So I spoke, we had another Substack Live with Chris last Thursday, I believe, and I asked him the same question, and about Evers. I was like, you have to tell me. I mean, he's a senator. He's a state senator. He's one of the most senior Democrats in Wisconsin. He's been in office for over a decade, and he said. First, I was like, you got to tell me that he's talking to the state senators, at least the Democrats and the assembly folks, about what he's doing. And he's like, no, we haven't heard a word from Governor Evers. And I was like, okay, well, maybe he's not going to include you guys, but don't you think he's on the phone with Governor Walz every day, Governor Pritzker every day? I mean, these guys are going through it. There should be a Midwest coalition of at least blue state governors that are talking. And he's like, if he hasn't said a peep about it publicly. So I know that Evers is out in a year, and so and he's going around taking. I see his Facebook posts, and he's going around to ice cream shops and licking ice cream cones and shaking hands with local businesses while the country is while Pritzker is basically in like armor and when Walz is just getting railroaded. I mean, like, we're right in the middle of the two, and this guy's licking ice cream cones. So I don't think Evers has really got it on his. He's like letting the next governor elect handle this problem, which I think is pathetic.
It is. Well, plus,
Amy,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well,
plus, there's a memo that's been released that basically immigration officers are asserting sweeping powers to enter homes without judges' warrants now. I think I saw this news today as well, which we've seen play out in Minneapolis, where they're just busting down doors without a warrant and dragging people out of their homes in their underwear. So I just wanted to. And so if Governor Evers isn't getting ahead of that, or Governor Pritzker for that matter, we are in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I'm nervous we're headed towards an eventuality that Democrats always think acting like Republican light will win over Republican voters. And I'm nervous in an election year that you're going to see some of the more centrist candidates run on the idea of finding a way to cooperate with ICE. They will not win a single Republican vote by doing that, but they sure as hell will lose a lot of leftist votes by doing that. And I hope that's not the route we learned in 24. That's not the route to take. I hope they learn from that lesson, but I am kind of nervous that you guys are right. It does seem like Evers is passing the buck, but that's what primaries are for. So I think we should all keep that in mind while we're voting this time around.
For sure. Quickly, Amy, tell us the counties in Wisconsin that have agreements. The sheriff's departments and are working with ICE to to help them detain folks who get arrested and sent to jails in counties.
For sure. So that's 287G. And essentially what that means is it allows local jails to function as an extension of federal immigration enforcement. So when folks are arrested there, they can be flagged, they can be held longer, and then they can be transferred straight to ICE custody. So there were conflicting reports that I found online. I found an article that said there was 19, and then the ACLU had 16. But what I've got is Brown County, Calumet. Oh, please, I am a transplant in Wisconsin, so if I slaughter any of these, jump in and save me. Fond du Lac, Kenosha, Kewaunee.
Nailed it.
Yep. Two. All right. Manitowoc, Marathon, Marquette, Outagamie, Sauk, Sheboygan, Washington, Waukesha, Wapaka, Washora. Did I say that one right?
Washera.
Thank you.
Winnebago
and Wood. So they're growing quickly.
So if you are listening to this podcast and from any of the counties that Amy just listed off, sheriffs get elected too. And these guys obviously have chosen, to be MAGA and to help terrorize fellow Americans at this point if they're working with ICE, not just immigrants. And so you need to be calling your sheriff and saying, why are you working with ICE after they've shot and murdered people in Minnesota? We're going to continue this conversation in the next segment, but I wanted to pivot a little bit to what's going on at the national level. So we, at the end of January, we remember, and I'll probably introduce the whole thing and we'll talk about it, but at the end of January, or at the end, less than 48 days ago, I believe, less than 2 months ago, our government was shut down. And it was shut down because we have a 60 votes in the Senate is what it takes, is the leverage that we have to shut down government unless we want Trump to change. And so we tried to aim for Medicaid, the extension of the ACA benefits, and we caved. But now we're facing that same thing again in next week. And so Democrats have a ton of leverage right now to stop ICE by not funding them.
I think they're going to fund. I think they're going to fund it. I think that I honestly.
What would they run on?
They're what they're saying on reform. They're, if we could just give them a little bit of guidance, if they just had a better idea of what their jobs actually are, is what it seems like. If we just gave, I'm with you. I don't know that this is fixable when it comes to ICE. So go ahead.
So let me update. We have about 30 seconds. There's a bit of this. There's confusion, and I was confused up until about 4 hours ago. When they passed the big, beautiful bill, they put in a provision that funds ICE no matter what.
Yep.
$75 billion is going to fund. So even if we shut down the government, ICE still gets funded. And unbelievably, we didn't know that when the big, beautiful bill was coming out. But at the same time, ICE wasn't shooting people at the time. So maybe that was what came across. So I think we should go to a break. But I want to keep on talking about this after the break, because there's a few things that we all can do to try to get the government to stop funding ICE.
We are broadcasting the Up North podcast. Amy Thomas, who keeps the wheels on the track when it comes to all the work we do with Minocqua Brewing Company. Make sure you're subscribing to the Minocqua Brewing Company Substack, and please be a paid subscriber so we can continue to share the information that we talk about here. Of course, our fearless leader, Kirk Bangstad. He has been a sponsor of the show since 2022, and we're grateful for all the work that he does. Ben Cominos, the host of Outside the Box on WHBY. Go to WHBY.com. We're broadcasting here on WCPT, KKNW, and KTNF. Be back in a minute, everybody.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. An extreme cold watch goes into effect Thursday night. Tonight, a little bit of blowing snow possible with a low temperature of 14 degrees. West winds up to 45 miles an hour. On Thursday, a chance of light snow showers with a high temperature of 25 degrees. West winds up to 35 miles an hour, so blowing snow possible once again. Thursday night, partly cloudy, 6 below zero. Wind chills as cold as 30 below. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 27.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
WCPT 820 will be hosting a candidate forum for the 3 leading candidates for Illinois' open United States Senate seat in the Democratic primary on February 6th.
Please join us at the Plumbers Hall at 1340 West Washington in Chicago, or listen to the live broadcast.
Representative Raja Krishnamurthy, Representative Robin Kelly, and Illinois Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton will be discussing their stances on the issues and making their case for your vote.
WCPT hosts Patti Vasquez, Richard Chu, and of course Jonas Esposito will be moderating the forum.
To attend in person, go to heartlandsignal.com/WCPT820 and register. We'll have limited seats available, so please register early.
Meet the leading Senate Democratic candidates at a free WCPT Live Candidate Forum at Plumbers Union Hall, Local 130 on Washington Street in Chicago, Friday, February 6th.
The forum starts at 1 p.m. and is sponsored by Plumbers Union Local 130.
Hey, Max, you look sharp in that purple tie. Ready to harness the world as a guide dog?
You bet, Daisy. And your purple service dog vest really pops against your shiny fur.
First day on the job for both of us. We've got this, right?
You bet. Dogs Inc. trained us well.
Ready to make a difference for our humans?
Born ready.
Discover how extraordinary guide and service dogs change lives at no cost to the recipients. Visit dogsinc.org.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Thank you so much for joining us. We continue our conversation on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal. And we are, hold on, I got to close that. We are joined by our friends from the Up North podcast. And they'll be back in just a moment. Let me just do, let's see, we're going to talk a little bit more about the activity that ICE agents are basically inflicting on our friends in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Hi, our friends in listening on KTNF AM 950. We are so sorry about the siege that has taken over your city. Basically the occupation of federal they're not even law enforcement. Oh, here we are. We have the Up North podcast. Take it away, Kirk Bangstad.
All right. Thanks, Patty. All right. So we're going to continue the conversation we were having right before break. So there's no doubt that we are going, ICE is going to get funded to $75 billion throughout, Trump's regime. That's why I was talking to Ben, I think yesterday, and we were so mad that Senator Cory Booker said, why don't we just buy ICE, some TV cameras that they can put on their their body cameras, and why don't we just give them more money to rein them in? I kind of understand a little bit. Listen, I still think it's ridiculous, but I understand the political conundrum these guys are in, because in order to rein in ICE now, because you can't take away their $75 billion, you can appropriate more money to them to try to and make sure that money goes to rein them in. I get that, but I also think that the agriculture bill hasn't been passed, which gives us SNAP benefits. The transportation bill is on a continuing resolution, which gives us air traffic controllers, and the Department of Homeland Security gives us not only ICE, which is but it gives us the guys at the airport, whoever those guys stopping us, take our shoes off, and they give us the Coast Guard and everything. We can still have leverage to stop government. Patty, what do you think?
I just think that, look, we just talked about how in the big, beautiful bill, we're learning that there's $74 billion over 4 years from that reconciliation bill. And it's a 300% increase. So you're telling me that what Booker said is that if we just buy them camera, which by the way, courts have been saying they have to wear their cameras, but they're not, because we saw Agent Jonathan Ross walk around with a cell phone and then switch hands so he could get his gun. That's neither here nor there. But so 265% of it goes to detention, right? It goes to basically paying for holding them in places where a lot of the detainees even have to work to have access to a phone. Like the amount of money they're spending is going to private, basically detention center owners. I can't. I know I'm supposed to be reading something else, but I just got really mad about that part. So it does guarantee, the amount of spending is absolutely insane. And when you talk about how we need to be taking care of the people in our communities, it's appalling that we're doing it this way by actually victimizing all of them.
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity here if we focus on just actually shutting down. I mean, It's the kind of frustration. And Patty, I spoke to you 2 weeks ago. You caught me right after the Renee Good murder, and it's probably the most most emotional I've ever been on airwaves. I'm an emotional guy, but I try to keep it calm for the purposes of what we do professionally. And it was just impossible for me to see it through any other kind of light. And I think there is an intrinsic benefit to shutting down. And it is a matter of, do they have, as I stated in the first half hour, does the Democratic Party have the intestinal fortitude to go and do that? Because that's the major issue. I will not make excuses for Cory Booker. And while I'm not making excuses, I watched ICE funding increase for 4 years under Joe Biden and all the years under Obama as well. There comes a time when we need to realize that placating this kind of stuff is not going to make it go away. You get laughed at as soon as you turn around when you're doing this kind of stuff. It's a hard sell. It really is, because we as leftists and liberals and centrists, we always come down on the conservative party, for Republicans, for MAGA, for shutting down the government, for whatever ridiculous welfare program they want to cancel that particular budget session. And it's a hard sell, I think, to some individuals. But I think the pros outweigh the cons on this one. Not even 30% of America is behind what's going on with ICE. And if you make it clear, we're not reopening until the Gestapo stops acting like a Gestapo, there will be some frustration. It will be spun to look bad in the media. But I think anybody paying attention to what happens will know that this is something. We can't deal with this till November, let alone 2028. And I think that's a very commonplace attitude. And we didn't get a chance to jump into it, but I believe that's why we won't see this in purple states, in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, because it's not popular. But to people in Patty's city, in Minneapolis, you guys are going to have to deal with this. And it's easy for me in Northeast Wisconsin, where, according to Amy, every single bleeping sheriff is throwing in the lot with ICE. It's easy for me to say, oh, deal with this for 8 more months. But I think anybody with empathy knows we got to shut it down and stop this garbage.
So there's different contingents. Amy looked at this and she got me this information. The progressive contingent, in which Mark Pocan, who's a congressman from Madison, he's part of the progressive contingent. His quote says, "I don't think there's any way you're going to see a Homeland Security appropriations budget get through Congress. I mean, the divide is too strong." He told that to CNN. So there's going to be Congress people, but Tammy Baldwin, who's always behind the scenes. She's not a bomb thrower. She doesn't want to increase the budget. She's talking about whether or not we should increase the budget, like Booker's talking about. But, we need Tammy more than we need Pocan, because Tammy needs to be part of the 60 votes that stops the funding for government. And we're not seeing that coming out of Tammy Baldwin right now. So the call to action here, and we'll say it again at the end of the show, is everyone needs to be calling their Democratic senators and Congress people and telling them that we can't fund government until ICE stops shooting us. And it's not. And I've talked to my advisor today, one of the consultants that everybody hates, but he also knows the pulse. He's like, all of these corporate Democrats have such faith that we're going to have elections next year, have such faith that they're not willing to do anything that's going to rock the boat. They're just going to wait until the elections come out. And I think, and I've said that for a year, that's crazy.
So I think the safer bet's in the House, personally, Kirk, because I do not respect libertarians. I have a joke on my show. I say libertarians are house cats. They act like they don't need you until they realize they haven't eaten in a couple hours. They're like, hey, aren't you going to give me food or something, or like shelter? They're not actually libertarians, but there are some people, that your Thomas Massey's, who has been pretty vocal about what's going on, handful of others that recognize government overreach when it's happening, and you only need a simple majority in the House to prevent anything from getting across the finish line. And based on deaths and retiring, I believe, am I mistaken? Are we at literally a 1 vote margin of error in the House right now? I believe that's accurate. So if one Republican slides over and says, yeah, ICE is overstepping, then it gets shut down. I think the smart play, you're not finding freaking 10 Republican senators to be like, no, make it easier for Mexicans to be here. That's not a thing that's going to happen, even if Tammy Baldwin comes along for the ride. But the House, very different story. I think that's the smart play there.
Okay, let's quick move to Greenland. So obviously everybody is in Davos right now. You have, all the European leaders. You have Canada's leader, what's his name? Mark Carney. You have
Paris, France.
Macron is in France, and they're all just reaming the United States out for this crazy stuff. Is the letters that Trump has written about, to Norway about, taking over Greenland because he didn't give me the Peace Prize. We have all read that. We've heard it. I'm not going to report it. I do want to talk about a couple quotes that Mark Carney, the Canadian Prime Minister, said, and then I want to open it up to you, Ben and Patty. So Carney, when he gave a speech, said, "It seems that every day we are reminded that we live in an era of great power rivalry, that the rules-based order is fading." And then he said, "Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. Over the past 2 decades, a series of crises in finance, health, energy, and geopolitics have laid bare the risk of extreme global integration, the end of pleasant fiction, and the dawn of a harsh reality of geopolitics in which the great powers are unconstrained, including Russia, China, and, of course, the U.S. Macron's statement said that we refuse to deal with the brutality of these types of politics. They're going against we have lost, the relationships that we have worked for 50 years to build seem to be disappearing in front of us, vanishing in front of us. Patty, what do you think about the United States' reputation globally?
Well, I mean, I know that. So we talked to a reporter in Copenhagen, and like everybody is appalled, right? The fact that he's saying these wild things that we look at, and they already had sort of this idea of Americans being loud and obnoxious and possibly dumb, but to have a leader, and what he did say was that they are recognizing that it's him, that he is he's gone off the rails, and that and they feel bad for us, which I guess is good. But when you have Canada and France publicly condemning American behavior at an international economic forum, that's allies basically preparing for a post-American world order, right? And that's building alliances with just going around us is surreal that we would find ourselves in this situation. And look, that we had this leadership for decades, but they're watching us spend $170 billion on immigration enforcement, which eclipses all of our police enforcement. And we had the moral high ground for all of our flaws, for all the reputation that we had for being loud, dumb Americans. But we could credibly call out before, like, human rights abuses, right? Support democratic movements and build international coalitions. And that is no longer the case. And I don't know how long it's going to take us to rebuild our relationships.
Okay, Patty, I was gonna ask. There's a really nice follow-up to this, and it's called "Sell America," which is a theme that's kind of going through Europe and dumping U.S. treasuries to rein us in. And we're going to talk about that after the break. Lead us out and make sure that you tell everybody about who we're listening to here.
We are listening to the Up North podcast here on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal, KKNW 1150 in Seattle, and KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis. We love you. With Ben Cominos from WHBY, Outside the Box, Kirk Bangstad, Minocqua Brewing Company. Go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and be a paid subscriber on Substack. And Amy Thomas, who keeps everything trucking along. More after this on WCPT 820.
Believe it or not, this podcast...
It's the Democracy, Stupid, with Edwin Eisendrath.
Americans in the founding generation didn't fail to build a palace. They chose not to build a palace. George Washington designed the Oval Office, well, its predecessor, so that hierarchies of rank weren't built into gatherings in the space. Trump's golden ballroom is the architectural repudiation of those egalitarian ideals.
Saturdays at 1 p.m. on WCPT 820.
You still thinking job change in the new year?
Yeah, I need something that's in high demand and more stable in this economy.
IT?
Yeah, cybersecurity, maybe even AI.
That's what I did.
Really? How?
Went to My Computer Career. You don't need any prior experience, and you could start your new career in a matter of months. A lot of IT pros go to school there, too, to level up.
Sweet. Are classes online or on campus?
Both.
Wow, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Make this your year. Take the free career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu, an Elite CompTIA certification partner.
Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including VA benefits.
The best words to hear at the TSA security checkpoint? You're good to go. All it takes is a little preparation. Get to the airport early, bring a carry-on bag that fits in the overhead, and have an acceptable ID. Not all state-issued IDs will cut it. Check out tsa.gov/ID and see which TSA acceptable IDs make the grade, like a real ID or passport.
Before you jet, do a little prep, and you're good to go. Check out tsa.gov/ID or the MyTSA app.
Tell me how you're doing, really. Tell me that you missed the bus this morning, your rent's past due, and your stress level has skyrocketed. I'm here for you, to listen, not judge, to connect you to local mental health resources. No matter what you're going through, specialists like me from NAMI Chicago Helpline are here for you. Call or text Helpline to 833-626-4244. That's 833-626-4244.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
And we are back with the Up North podcast. We had to do our station ID, everybody, so thank you for your patience through the pause. Kirk Bangstad, take it away.
Okay, so before the break, we were talking about, we're just destroying our reputation. We're destroying the trust that the United States has made around the globe. We have no moral high ground anymore. People are linking Trump and us to Russia, Putin's Russia, and North Korea type states. There's been talk in Davos, and it's been reported. I think Amy gave me a Guardian article that Europe is considering taking action against the United States, economic action. And if you think that foreign policy doesn't affect your pocketbook, this is where it does. So there's a thing called Sell America, which I believe that potentially, other than China, Europe in general might hold the most U.S. Bonds or U.S. securities, globally that exist. And if Europe sells them all, or if they sell their securities, it'll create a glut, and it will potentially have downward pressure on the U.S. dollar, which could cause a whole host of problems. Ben, what are some of those problems?
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation to have here. I mean, obviously, America having the largest GDP that's out there in the world, I believe around 30 trillion. The entire EU combined is around 20 trillion. Just for some reference here, Russia's at 2.5 trillion. So to give you an idea there, it's a matter of how greedy versus how scared the EU finds himself in this particular moment. Because economically, you will not be able to find somebody that compares to what America, at least the corporations, can generate economically. So you got to consider that when you're having this conversation about whether or not they're actually willing to leave. Were they to actually do so, though, there's a number of different, and I'm not going to claim to be an economic expert when it comes to how bonds and certain tariffs and other things like that work overseas. But what I do know is the partnerships that we have in terms of imports and exports, as well as a number of different business deals and sweetheart deals, which have been dangled in front of us periodically over the course of the last couple of days during this Greenland debacle. While we might not always feel the benefit of it, and we know there's a large percentage of the population that thinks we get the raw end of the deal, it really is what provides us a lot of the backing and the safety guarantees that I think a lot of us have taken for granted over the years, based on our NATO partnership and the safety that we have with Europe. But I would be remiss if I didn't at least highlight, I read this quote on my show today. This is from a French woman from the 40s, Amy César, and I think it kind of highlights there's a level of frustration because I hear us talking about Russia and North Korea. I would argue who America reminds me of right now in regards to Greenland is Israel and what they were doing to Gaza. And our European allies were very content to support us supporting Israel. And the line always is fascism is just imperialism turned inward. And what Europe is experiencing right now is what America does to everybody. I do not subscribe to this Pollyannish idea that we were the world's good guys. I think what Europe is realizing right now is what we and Europe, by extension, have done to the entire global South since before any of us were born. And there's a quote from Nazi Germany that I think really highlights the parallels between now and Nazi Germany continue to pile up. What the European bourgeois cannot forgive Hitler for is not the crime itself. It's not the crime against man. It's not the humiliation of man as such. It is the crime against the white man, the humiliation of the white man, and the fact that he applied to Europe colonialist procedures when until then had been reserved exclusively for the Arabs of Algeria, the coolies of India, and the blacks of Africa. And what we're watching right now are the white countries of Europe realize that they, for the first time ever, cannot trust the man in the White House, and they are pivoting. They are willing to work with China instead of us because of this. And if we don't acknowledge that and acknowledge that this is what we do all over the place, not just Greenland, it just feels stranger because it's Greenland. We've been here before, and we need to call this kind of stuff out when it happens.
Can I just say, it's interesting that you say that because I had someone comment on my Facebook post. I'm getting a lot of people from like all over the world, and I had someone from another country say that they were hoping that Trump would win so it would expose the kind of actions that we take and the behavior that we've been participating in for decades. So I thought that was...
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think, but anyway. I wish it had to be this painful. Go ahead.
So the question is, we just invaded Venezuela. We're talking about invading Greenland. ICE is descending on different cities. There's a backdrop here that, I don't think you can say any of these things are just meant to distract us because they're so horrible in and of themselves. But we still are waiting for the Epstein files, and we haven't talked about them for a month, and they were supposed to have been given to us a month ago by law, passed both by Republicans and Democrats, and they haven't. Patti, what is happening with the Epstein files?
So in a lovely bipartisan duo, Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie had filed a lawsuit to request a court-appointed special master to oversee the Epstein release. They just did that on January 8th, because only 1% of the documents have been released since the official date that they were supposed to be turned over, which was December 19th. A federal judge today shot down that request, saying it wasn't done properly, but they could file again. So it is a matter of, the wheels of justice moving very slowly. I guess you have to do it the right way, which whatever. But at least one survivor, and I heard that there were at least two survivors had come forward. Now, they had wanted to do, the Ro Khanna and Massie were doing this in a way they were hoping to protect survivors rather than having this huge dump. So there's at least one survivor who has formally asked a federal court to intervene, and the courts do take survivors seriously in these instances. So look, the government moving slow versus doing it right is painful sometimes, but the boring, the procedural stuff, getting the filing correct, and listening to survivors is the right way forward.
What's interesting? Oh, sorry, Kirk.
Go ahead.
No, Ben.
What's interesting about that, Patti, because you're exactly right. We didn't start talking about Epstein until 7 minutes left in an hour, which goes to show you how much other garbage is piling up. And I hate to boil it down to politics. The Epstein list polls at -38. I can't believe it's not 100, but welcome to polarization in America. It polls at -38 in terms of approval. Greenland, which we all view, I think, collectively as a distraction, is polling at -40. It is less popular than the Epstein list in terms of how it works from a political perspective. And it goes to show you that, we are getting distracted by all this kind of garbage, but it's like out of the frying pan and into the fire, right? I mean, fundamentally, that's what the Trump regime's looking at. And we're talking about sexual abuse survivors, so I don't want to boil it down just to politics, but this is a political podcast where we talk politics, and it's bad politics to distract with something dumber than the actual story itself.
So I guess, I was just going to rail on spineless Democrats again, but what Massey and Ro Khanna wanted seems reasonable. You have a special master, that's not part of the Republican Party, and that's not part of probably not part of the Department of Justice because they're getting sued. You have this person who's in charge of releasing the files, and they have to do it, in a certain amount of time. And that seems like the right way to do it. You have to take it out of the Department of Justice's hands. If they actually get a special master or somebody independent doing this, then it'll be done in a proper way, and then we can actually focus on it. I still don't understand, however, why the original judge, why does it have to be a month? Why does a judge have to hear something from Ro Khanna or Thomas Massey, a new proposal? The law was written, they passed the law. I've been sued a lot. I know contempt of court quite a bit. They're just in contempt right now. Like, it seems to me like they should be able to have a split that switches to throw somebody in jail for not giving the files away.
Yeah, you would think. You know what? Go ahead, Ben. You go.
No, I was just going to parrot what you were saying there. And I think it's all a matter of verbiage. Like, I would even suggest I've stopped referring to them as the elites, and I've started referring to them as the Epstein class. Just the entire group of people until they're willing to actually play ball with what's going on. Because fundamentally, we already knew with the 90 whatever trials against Trump that none of them actually came to fruition, where if any one of us committed one of those crimes, especially you, Kirk, you'd be in jail right now. And he just kind of skated away with it here. I don't want to be a pessimist, but I feel like these guys are going to drag this out for the foreseeable future. Sure. Or, as I've been predicting, it'll be the "Oops, all Dems" edition of the Epstein list, which is just as useless as not getting them at all.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of comments from my lovely haters that it's just gonna be all all Democrats in it anyway. It's all Clinton and now Biden's in it. Apparently, that's the bots don't know any better. I know. They're adorable.
Notice that Biden and Obama.
Yes, Obama's in there.
I got plenty of problems with him. Nowhere near the Epstein list.
Yeah, nowhere near.
Something.
All right, we don't have much time left. I wanted to list a few action items for everybody who have made it to through the show so far. First of all, if you're in Minnesota, join that whatever they're calling it. I'm calling it a general strike on this Friday, January 23rd. It is called it's a stress test. If you can do it and do it coordinated enough, it will encourage others to do it. We need to grow the movement of general strikes and the people that think that they're possible. Second, boycott the companies like Target who are housing ICE. We are doing a crowdfunder for the Minocqua Marketplace, which is an e-commerce site meant to make it easier for you to boycott companies, because we want to put everything on that site as a substitute so that you can, and that's an affordable substitute for every product that is made by a company who is bent the knee to Trump. And finally, call your Pocan and call Tammy Baldwin, call your Democratic senators and make them defund the federal government.
That's the Up North podcast with Kirk Bangstad, Amy Thomas, and Ben Cominos. Thank you, Lady B. Good night, everybody. Have a great evening.
This is a WCPT Veteran Minute. In the heart of World War II, while the skies rumbled with the roar of combat, a groundbreaking squad of pilots